Hey everyone, I'm back again with another 2.0 preview. This time I'm going over the official patch notes and I'm going to show you everything in-game and give you some insight on how it all works. The release of 2.0 Experimental on PC is Monday, June 16th, and the stable release for PC and console is currently scheduled for June 30th. Now, I absolutely love almost everything about this update, but there are some things that I think need some improvement, and I'm going to save that for the very end of the video. For now, let's jump in and see what's new. First up, let's meet the Plague Spitter Zombie. He's going to be found in the desert biome, and he does about as much damage as the cop, like a regular cop does, so you can kind of think of him that way. He also has a special attack, it's kind of similar to the cop. He has a ranged attack where he summons a swarm of flies to harass you, and the insect swarm, it's really weak. It's about 10 hit points, but it has 99% resistance to ranged attacks, so you definitely want to use melee to take these out. The bugs do about 3 damage per hit, and they have an extremely high chance to inflict things like fatigue, stuns, and infection. They also slow you down, so you make sure you take these guys out as soon as possible, but they will dissipate after a few seconds. The Plague Spitter does have a chance to appear during Horde Night, starting at game stage 91. Next up, we have the Frostclaw, found exclusively in the snow biome. Again, he does about as much damage as a regular cop, at least the regular version of the Frostclaw. Now there will be like radiated and charged versions as well, and he has a ranged attack as well where he picks up a boulder and hurls it at you from a distance. The boulder attack is significantly stronger, about 2.5 times as much damage as his hand attack, so you gotta watch out for these. They also do pretty significant block damage. And again, we're going to be seeing these guys during Horde Night, starting at game stage 97, so just slightly later than the Plague Spitter. Since we're on the topic of game stage, I figured I would mention here that dire wolves will now be showing up at game stage 127, so you shouldn't be seeing dire wolves in your day 7 or day 14 hordes. It's going to be a while before you see them from now on. And if you want to check your game stage, you can check the player panel right here, or you can go to your character stats panel. It's listed down near the bottom of this list, kind of right next to where your loot stage is, and I'll be referencing that a little bit later on too. Grace got its new model finally, and it is looking wicked. This is probably the coolest looking thing to come out of this whole update. Unfortunately, Grace will not be showing up during Horde Night. Grace is kind of exclusive to a couple of POIs, kind of like a boss battle fight kind of thing. Next up, we have the Charged Blue Zombies. Now, think of these like radiated zombies, but they're going to show up just a little bit later. They're a little bit faster and they hit a little bit harder. Not all zombies come in this variant. It's more of like the smaller, faster types of zombies. Then you have the Infernal Orange Zombies. Now these are a tier even above the blue zombies. They also show up at an advanced game stage. They do less damage to the player than the Charged Blue Zombies, but like almost double the block damage. They have considerably more health than Rads, and even considerably more than the Charged Blue Zombies, sometimes almost double the hit points. And they have 75% knockdown resistance, but they are considerably slower than both the blue zombies and green radiated zombies. And speaking of zombies, we're gonna have a new feature for zombies. They're gonna be able to crawl under a 1 meter gap. Now, I did considerable testing with this, and it's not just a 1 meter gap, it's like a sub 1 meter gap. So I tried having a 1 meter gap with a plate, and then I did a pole plate, and then I did a quarter cube, and then I did a half cube, and the half cube was finally able to keep them out. However, I did do a bunch more testing with just like hatches and doorways and bars and doorways and like scaffolding ladder in a doorway, and it seemed to work out okay. I didn't have many cases where the zombies were trying to jump and climb over and ducking down, and overall, just in my limited testing, I do think that the crawling behavior of zombies is much more fluid, and they've removed some of the jank from it. I'm sure there are some horde-based implications, but I simply don't have enough experience at this time to tell you one way or the other how you should be building your horde bases. I tried out a bunch of classic designs, and it seems to be working a-okay for me. However, this is where things get really interesting. So zombies are going to be able to now spawn in these 1 meter little cube areas where it's like a ventilation duct or something, and they're just dropping out one by one. So the reason they're doing this is because when you get to a big boss battle at the end of a big like tier 5 POI, for example, usually the game is going to spawn in like 30 zombies for you to fight all at once, and it hurts your performance, and there's just a lot going on. So what this does is it allows for perhaps 10 or 15 or 20 zombies to be alive at any given time, and then once you kill one, another one will spawn. And so when you get to the end of the dungeon, you get this mini Horde Night, and when I first heard and saw this feature, it sounded weird, right? Because you're just having zombies kind of appear out of thin air, but actually this is really fun. Call me crazy, but when I was fighting on the top of this Dashang tower here, and there were zombies just coming at me from all directions at all times, I had to have my head on a swivel. It just felt like a really action-packed fight, just like Horde Night. You know, they're coming from all directions. You gotta continue the fight through to the very end, and then at the very end there's like this slow trickle where there's like, you know, 2 or 3 that are still like left to spawn out of the ventilation ducts, and so you gotta kind of like hunt the remaining zombies down. So that's about it for the zombie changes. Now let's take a look at the biome changes, starting with the biome hazard system. So every time you leave the forest biome from now on and you go into a different biome, you're gonna have a limited amount of time that you can stay there before you start getting hurt. There's a unique overlay and some sound effects that go along with this so that you know that it's hazardous, and you know, there's also just HUD icons and pop-ups. You literally can't miss it. Anyway, exceeding the time limit over here in the corner will result in you starting to take damage and eventually death, and it's about 1 damage per second, so you can counter this with first aid if you want to just power through it. Or you can consume a new biome smoothie to extend your timer. These are 4 new drinks that they've added to the game, and they are unlocked from the very beginning, so you don't have to do anything to unlock the recipe. They are not affected by the Iron Gut perk. I tested this out, which it typically increases buff duration. The buffs do last between about 4 and 7 minutes. It says 5 minutes here, but in my experience there was a variable timer to it. And they are crafted with local resources such as mushrooms that grow in the burnt forest for the burnt smoothie, or new radiated mushrooms that grow in the wasteland for the atomic smoothie, which those also happen to be psychedelic if you want to go for a little trip. The atomic smoothie is definitely the most difficult to make, so you're gonna have to keep an eye out for acid and for supercorn, and do not forget to set up your gardens and start working on this from the very beginning. To gain full immunity, you are going to need to get a biome badge, and you can start working on your biome badges after you've completed the basics of survival. So a biome badge is awarded to you after you have completed 7 specific tasks that are relevant to each biome. For example, you have to, harvest up some mushrooms, craft the burnt smoothie, mine some nitrate in the burnt forest, kill burnt zombies, loot containers in the burnt forest, and then survive there for about 20 minutes. And then you will complete the challenge, you'll go back to the trader, and they will give you a biome badge. This is not technically something that you wear, it's more like a book. It's just, once you get it, it's done. You can't transfer it to someone else, you can't lose it, you can't leave it at home, it's just attached to you forever. There's also a handy amount of XP that are attached to all these biome challenges as well, which is pretty cool. So along with these biome badges, there's been another drastic shift in how loot works in each of the biomes. So here are the loot stage caps, meaning that even if you level up or you progress in days and your game stage is increasing and your loot stage is increasing, you're going to be stuck at this maximum loot stage per biome. And just for reference, 205 is the maximum loot stage, where loot never gets better wherever you are. Doesn't matter what POI you're in, what biome you're in, what level you are. Once you hit 205, you're capped out. However, once you get a biome badge, it bumps up the maximum loot stage for each of the previous biomes. So when you have all biome badges unlocked, the maximum loot stage kind of increases up like this. Additionally, it is worth noting here that in previous versions of 7 Days to Die, if you went to one of the other biomes apart from the forest, you would receive a loot stage bonus. It would give you like a flat number increase to your loot stage, and then a percentage increase on top of that. That has been removed. There is no longer any incentive or loot stage reward for going into an advanced biome. You will not benefit whatsoever from going into the wasteland on day 1 and looting there. All it's going to increase is your game stage, and therefore the difficulty of the threats that you'll face there. The most important takeaway from what I've said here so far about the biomes is that it is an option that you can toggle off in the settings. You can remove the loot stage caps, and you can remove the hazardous weather, progression, biome biome badge system as well, if that's not how you want to play and you want to revert back to a sort of old school classic play style. So in addition to the biome hazards, there's another sort of hazard that goes along with this, but it's a separate system. These are weather events. So we're going to have severe storms that now occur in all of the biomes. The one that happens in the forest is not going to damage you, but all other storms in the other biomes will be able to harm you. When a storm is about to start brewing, you're going to hear a little siren go off in the distance and a timer will pop up so that you literally, again, you cannot miss it. It's right in your face, like when exactly the storm is going to hit. So in order to avoid taking damage from the storm, you're going to have to go indoors, or you can make yourself a little impromptu shelter. Basically what I found in some testing is that yes, you can seal yourself up in like a little cube box like this, but apparently what needs to happen is that you need to be surrounded on all sides by walls, and you need to have a block above your head as well. So this configuration right here where I dug 3 meters into the ground and put a block over my head also was safe. So basically, if you're stuck in a storm while you're mining, you should be fine. So biome badges and also biome smoothies will not protect you from this type of storm. And again, if this is not something that you think you're going to enjoy in your playthrough, you can toggle the storm frequency down, even off, or if you enjoy it a lot, you can crank it up to 500%. In other news for the update, we have some new food models and animations. So we have new animations for things like taking pills and injecting steroids. And there's also like models for all of the different cans, so you can see the label on there and the nutritional facts and everything. If the item doesn't have a model, I don't know if they're going to add it in the future, but there is this kind of like wrapped box, kind of like, you know, just a preserved food item. So, you know, it looks a little bit better than the leather wallet that we used to be eating. Transmog is now coming to the game, so you can wear whatever you want for whatever bonus you want, but you can look like any other set of armor that you want to look like. So how this works is that if you obtain a piece of armor, either you craft it or you purchase it or find it, if you scrap that item, you all of a sudden get the recipe, I suppose, for that cosmetic slot. So you can go into your character here, go to the cosmetics, and you can change your appearance to whatever outfit or hat that you want to wear. You can even wear a helmet, but choose to remove it so that it doesn't look like you're wearing a helmet anymore and you can see your hair, or lack thereof. This also paves the way for paid DLC and Twitch drops in the future, so they can release certain armor sets that you get by watching someone stream on Twitch, or that you pay a fee and you suddenly are able to unlock it and apply it to your character permanently. We see here that there's the desert set, the hoarder set, and the Marauder set that are already kind of lined up and ready to go for this. New quest flags are a thing, and you know, I gotta say, they look pretty good. An official third-person view is supposedly in the works and should be ready for a 2.1 or 2.2 patch. Dedicated servers, that is for like Xbox, PlayStation, and PC player crossplay, is also in the works. It's pending certification from what I've heard, so this should also be a thing at some point during the 2.0 cycle. There were a few new shapes that were added. It was something like maybe 20. My favorite ones were these deco shapes right here, which actually I'll probably be using these quite a bit in my horde based builds, but there are also just some like random shapes that probably were just used in like really niche spots and prefabs. There are some new graphics settings as well, including DLSS support for NVIDIA graphics cards users. And on that note, I will say that performance that in my testing here so far in this update has been phenomenal. I mean, I'm getting like close to 200 frames per second in some areas, which is unheard of. Whatever they're doing behind the scenes here, it's working. All right, my friends, that's going to do it for my review of the 2.0 patch for 7 Days to Die. There are probably some more things that I might have missed. I will link the official patch notes from the Fun Pimps in the description down below if you want to check that out and read through them. Now it's time for me to talk about some of the things that I don't like about this update, things that I think there's some room for improvement with, right? So I'm not trying to disparage against the devs here. I got nothing but love and appreciation for the Fun Pimps, and overall, I think this is a fantastic update. However, there are some things that I would have done differently. So what I'd like to do now is present some of the problems that I think there are and also offer up a possible solution to those. The first problem that I see, and that this is coming from a lot of like comments that I've read, probably hundreds, even thousands of comments I've read over the past week or two leading up to the 2.0 update. And that is that the game is holding your hand a lot, especially with these weather events. There are timers, there are displays, there are, countdowns on your screen and stuff, and it's really not necessary. I think that the weather, it should work on sound cues, visual cues to let you know when the storm is coming, when it has arrived, and when it's going to clear. Having these timers, it's very immersion breaking, and I miss the days of 7 Days to Die. I'm reminiscing now, but I miss the days when you had to discover a lot of stuff on your own. The game really tells you how to play the game a lot better now than it used to, and I think to a fault in some areas. So what I would say is just remove some, if not all, of the HUD elements and let the players discover these new storms and biome systems on their own. Number 2, and this is my biggest one right here, it's that really the only perk that I think we needed to move into the general tab, that we really needed to, okay, was the vehicles, was the Grease Monkey set, so that we can all have access to vehicles. If you don't put points into Grease Monkey, you're not going to find the magazines quickly enough to get the vehicles that you need to travel the map. And traveling the map is going to be more important now than ever before. You're going to have to explore every biome to get your biome badges, and you're going to have to probably move your base around periodically to access the higher loot caps in the other biomes as well. And that's going to be really tedious, maybe not the first time, but in every time after the first time, packing up shop and walking around and, loading up your bicycle or your mini bike or even your motorcycle. There's just not enough storage to move all your stuff around like that. So 2 things that we could do to fix that. Number 1, move Grease Monkey into the general tab and give intellect, I don't know, some other kind of perk, right? But that would allow everyone to have access to the vehicles, to get the Vehicle Adventures magazines more quickly, to get the vehicles more quickly so that we can move around more quickly. Or we could, going back to some old dev live streams in the past where they revealed that they wanted to make a fast travel option at the traders, like you go up to the ham radio that's next to the helipad at the traders and you fast travel from Trader Rex to Trader Bob's, and you can spend the day in the desert looting there and then fast travel back to your base in the forest biome. That would just cut down on a lot of the back and forth that we're gonna have to be doing here. And I really think that that is something that it's time to implement that at this point. Okay, number 3, last one here. None of these are like game breaking deals for me, okay? I'm still gonna play and enjoy the update, but the last one is that the biome badge, okay? The biome badge, like a literal badge that I'm wearing on my chest, like that's protecting me against radiation storms in the wasteland. I mean, I feel like there was a good opportunity there to create some thematic, realistic, semi-realistic things where, what about if like a biome gene editor, like a gene injection straight out of Rebirth mod, right? You get an injection from the trader, or you craft it using some of the resources that you got from those biomes, you inject it into yourself, and all of a sudden, bam, you are genetically modified, you are able to survive in these biomes. At least that's a little bit more believable, and like I said, just thematic. It fits into the world better than just a biome badge. But that's it, okay? That's it. There's other like little minor gripes. Those are the big 3 for me. Let me know what you think, and hey, if we can maybe stir up enough comments and stuff, maybe we can get the Fun Pimps to see some of this stuff and make some of the changes. I know a lot of you are on board with some of the problems and the changes that I presented so far, so let me know, let them know. Let's be constructive, let's be respectful as well. This is a game that's been updated consistently for over 10 years now. Thank you to the Fun Pimps for this massive, awesome update. Thank you to all of my supporters over here and to you as well for watching through to the end of this video. Remember, like, sub, repent, and I will see you in the next video.